As we have the start list here of the next semi-final, the women's double scull. In lane 1, USA, lane 2, Ireland, lane 3, France, lane 4, China, lane 5, Australia, and lane 6, South Africa.
So the familiar double on the far side for the Americans of Christina Wagner and Sophia Vitas. There they are. On the far side, the two athletes from Massachusetts and Wisconsin, coached by the Dutchman, Josie Verdonschot. Next to them, Zoe Hyde and Alison Bergin, coached by Ashley Rowe, the Kiwi. I met her. She's not long moved into her job in rowing Ireland, but done a great job with these women who have come together quite recently. Margot Balliol and Emma Lunati, yet another hope for the French team. Obviously, the two women from Le Havre and Aviron Grenoble. The two Chinese in lane 4. Lu Shiyu did so well in the women's single at last year's Worlds, came 4th. And Chen Qingmai, two women Chinese Olympians from Tokyo. Here are the Australians in lane 5. Amanda Bateman, the Tokyo Olympian from Melbourne University Boat Club. Lara Gawley from UTS Harbourfield. And Paige Badenhorst and Catherine Williams. They will have a tough job on that far side, but the two women from the University of Pretoria absolutely chuffed to be in this AB semi-final. South African rowing really been impressing out here on the Sava River course.
Yeah, South African team have been doing well, haven't they? Qualifying boats for Paris. But as you say, it's going to be tough over here. The lanes have been redrawn for anyone who's joining us because the breeze is coming from the side. So it's the United States and Ireland who've earned the right to be over there in lanes 1 and 2. As we're seeing the Irish double here. Philip Doyle and Tara Lynch coming in. Dara Lynch coming in to get a drink and get some celebrations.
Get that little poster that World Rowing have done, Paris Qualify, as we hear the heartbeat. I think when you hear that heartbeat, the tension really ramps up, doesn't it?
And we're away in semi-final number 1 of the women's double scull.
So there are the French. Emma Lunati in the stroke seats, a lot resting on their shoulders. They got a decent lane draw in lane 3. The Americans over there on that far side leading the race. The Chinese aren't waiting to the last 500. Lu Shiyu and Chen Qingmai maybe even leading the race at this early stage.
Interesting, it was a bit of a slower start from the Australians, but they're really winding up into their speed now, getting that bow ball number 5 up next to the fast-starting Chinese crew, who were definitely the first off the blocks.
Yeah, good for it going with the Australians going for it here. You can see the stroke rate. They're at 41 strokes a minute. They're using rate to try and get away with the race. I wonder whether they might pay for that later on. Let's see.
I was going to say Laura Gawley's only 21, the Australian stroke woman in that boat, Sarah.
That's right. Certainly a developing athlete, coached by Hallie Chapman, who has started coaching at the Women's National Training Centre and coached her at UTS Harbourfield before that. As you mentioned, that's the club that Laura comes from. Amanda Bateman, the more experienced of the two, racing at the Tokyo Olympics with Tara Rigney in the double scull, which won the B final. But the race is really happening there at the top of the screen with these Americans, Wagner and Vitas, moving into a lead position. I think the Australians are in second, but the Irish right in there as well as they come through the first 500-metre marker.
Yeah, the Americans finished 5th in the Worlds last year. Christina Wagner with Jevi Stone finished 5th in the Olympics. The Irish had a fantastic, I think, first heat against the Lithuanians. They let the Lithuanians lead them and then came through in the second half. So Zoe Hyde and Alison Bergin do have that capacity to move quickly through the second half, the women from Kilorgan and Fermoy.
Yeah, you'd have thought that's a smart way to race for the Irish, that it served them well to just sit in the field to start with. It's a headwind, or it's been a headwind. It's been slow racing, so actually to recognise you've got to go the full distance. The Irish have done that well, and they're just tracking the Americans, those two, looking to ease their way away from the rest of the field. As we look at these Americans sculling pretty nicely here, 36 strokes a minute.
Yeah, another success for the American team. This double, of course, coached by Josie Verdonkschot, the Dutch guru who has gone to be the American performance director, as it were. And he's taken over the lightweight women's double, and I think this heavyweight women's double, he's got all the team training together. He's done a wonderful job, particularly with the women's crews, and you can see the impact of them over there.
Yeah, and the graphic isn't picking up the Dutch crew. It shows USA, China, Australia, but the Irish are in second on your screen as we ride with them now.
Yeah, long lean back, and this crew recently put together from Ireland. Sanita Puspura, of course, was in the women's double last year. The veteran Irish athlete, but now Zoe Hyde with Alison Bergin, and they are absolutely flying. Another feather in the cap of Antonio Maragiovanni, the Italian performance director of Irish rowing. The French off the back, as are the South Africans. And the French are going to have to do something special if they're going to qualify from that position.
Yeah, but I've talked about whether you try to bide your time through the race. The French crew there, we can see them in lane 3. They're tracking with it. They've got a favoured position. The Australians started really fast over here in lane 5. I can't help thinking they might drift backwards. For me, it's about whether the Chinese can actually hold off the French in this second half.
The Chinese up at 36 strokes per minute, and they are moving. They're closing that gap with every stroke. Maybe the Irish are starting to challenge the Americans here, but the Chinese are coming as they're moving with every stroke now to get themselves into that third qualifying position and to push away from the French and the Australians.
Well, Lu Shiyu, the bowwoman, there she is on the right of your picture. She got herself in the Chinese women's quad when, just after they were Olympic champions on this course in Belgrade. I saw her come down in that boat. She didn't quite stay in the boat last year, but she is an incredible talent, and it's great to have an athlete like that in the bows of your boat.
Well, and if anything, the Chinese are really making progress here against the race leaders over on the far side of the course. We take a look now here in this French double, and if they're to do it, they need to really do it now. They haven't yet closed that gap at all on the race leaders, and now we're coming down. They're going to have, about 600 metres to go. It's time to go if they're going to get into a direct qualifying place into this A final and off to the Paris Games, their home games.
So will we see a move in the last quarter as we did in the heat from Zoe Hyde and Alison Bergin? It's America leading as we come in with 500 metres to go. The Chinese in third place. France a little bit out of it in terms of qualifying. And indeed, I think it's the double from Australia. Bateman and Gourley are challenging for fourth place.
Confirmation coming through the 1500. USA, Ireland, China, Australia just narrowly ahead of France, and then South Africa.
Well, Ireland are going for it. They're looking to move on the Americans. They know how important it is to get that first qualifying place through to the A final and starting to put pressure now. Will this American double be able to respond? Let's see.
They've got a nice fluidity out forward, the Americans, haven't they?
Well, fluidity's all well and good, but we know the Irish can sprint. And if the Irish want to sprint, there's no need for fluidity right now.
Yeah, I like the way the Americans are moving. I take your point, Greg. I'd take Ireland to come through, particularly with those shouts.
Ireland, you can hear it beside us.
Ireland.
The Chinese here hanging on to that third qualifying place. We can tell you that. The French haven't come back. It's all about this race here for who's going to win it, because I'm sure China will be third.
The Australians being pushed back into fifth position. Now the French have come through, but the French are not going to be able to challenge China.
Or are they? Just seeing this picture here.
I spoke too soon.
As I say, the French can't come back. They're really going for it in this last 500. There could be enough race course left. Wow. There is another race going on here.
There is another race for third place going on. We're concentrating on the Irish on screen, but Greg Searle, myself and Sarah Cook are looking out to see the French challenging the Chinese at the back of the field.
I think the French are going to get it. You'll see it when it comes up. Here we go.
Wow, that's incredible. The French are in front of the Chinese. Sensational scull from the French women, Bayard and Lunati. USA take the win, and it is Ireland in second place. Magnifique pour les Français. Incroyable. They will celebrate that. That means so much to the French team. And Lu Shiyu and Shen Chingmai, their heads go down. Australia in fifth place. Baden-Holston Williams for South Africa in sixth place. I think I called the French Frenchmen there. My apologies to them. They were French women, of course.
They were a fantastic scull from the French women. We'll see satisfaction there for Bergen and Hyde. You just see, yep, we've done the job. They had a go, didn't they, in that last 500? And, you know, our attention was focused, as you would expect, on that race leader. But a great, great last 500. I'm just trying to look how much they took. They took 7 seconds out of the Chinese. They were 7 seconds behind the Chinese. The French double were with 500 metres left. But they took it all.
Well, let's do the result. Wagner and Vitus from the USA taking the win, narrowly ahead of the Irish and the French with that wonderful last quarter.